What's the deal, man? Phil by Craft. For as long as I've been watching sports, to be honest, KU, specifically the Kansas men basketball team, has one of the worst fan bases that I've ever seen. And to be honest, I really wish the fans would just shut up about the whole Darren Peterson situation. At this point, it's like y'all screaming at clouds. For those who aren't privy or hip to what's going on with the KU men's basketball team, every page on Twitter and Instagram that's exclusively to covering the Kansas basketball Jayhawks, it's like they all cry and post the same content at this point. It makes it really hard to follow any of those accounts. To paint the picture for what's going on, Kansas guard Darren Peterson, right now through 4 games, is averaging 19 points a game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 42% from 3, and 2 stocks, which is steals and blocks. So if you've never seen him play and you're just looking at the stat sheet, that's a really productive player. It's a little bit of a smaller sample size as we are still kind of in the beginning of the season. And for those who don't know what's going on with Darren Peterson, he's dealing with a hamstring and calf injury. And those type of injuries, lower leg injuries as a whole, are just something that you don't play with, especially if you have the opportunity to kind of sit back and let it rest, which Darren Peterson had the benefit of having this injury at least happen at the beginning of the season versus during the middle or the end. But for a young, explosive guard to stay healthy, early mismanagement of these lower body injuries can linger for years and ultimately have his career cut short. And yeah, these players are getting paid in college. He's a top 3 prospect with only playing 4 games. So for an 18-year-old to risk generational wealth like that in games that I don't want to say that don't count, but in many of these games, KU won in dominant fashion, and coming into these games were double-digit favorites. So why would you even risk having a top 3 prospect play in games like that with conference play and March Madness still in front of you? Games that he did miss was Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. KU won that game 77-46. We missed him in the Princeton game. KU won that game 76-57. We missed them in the Duke game where we lost that game 66-78. The Vegas tournament, they went 3-0, defeating the likes of Tennessee, Syracuse, and Notre Dame. And 2 out of those 3 wins were double-digit wins. We missed them in the UConn game, 56-61 was the final score for that one. And the last 2 games that we missed them in was Townsend. KU won that game 73-49. And the game that just most recently happened was Davidson, where KU won 90-61. Outside of Duke and UConn, honestly, what games would you have wanted him to play in? Honestly, outside of Duke and UConn, you wouldn't want him to play in any of those games because the same people that are criticizing him for not playing will be the same ones for criticizing Bill Self for playing him in meaningless games. Like I said, we're coming into these games double-digit favorites most of the time. The dumbest arguments that I've seen, in my opinion, so far was a lot of people like to reference when Hunter Dickinson played with a hurt shoulder. That's comparing apples and oranges, which is why it's important to provide context when you bring stuff like that up. Darren Peterson is an 18-year-old true freshman, like I said, who's only played 4 games and is projected the top 3 pick in the NBA. While Hunter Dickinson was a super senior with a hurt shoulder in March. And in Hunter Dickinson's case at that time, which he ended up going undrafted, it was no promise that he would even be playing professional basketball in the next 5 years. Versus Darren Peterson, a guy who's in top 3 picks and has only played 4 collegiate basketball games. So that argument doesn't really move me too much because, like I said, the plan is to make it pro. So it's to be proactive and to be safe on the journey to making it to the NBA. Some examples of guys who rushed this injury and ended up playing for it later down the line. 2021, James Harden, he had a lingering hamstring injury and decided to play through it, which had happened earlier in the season. Now, he was able to return from the postseason, but he was clearly compromised and not nearly as explosive, hesitant, and even he told you he didn't feel healthy during that time. In a more notable situation, in 2018, Chris Paul, he tried to rush back from a hamstring injury and got shut down in Game 6 and Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, which a lot of people believe that the Rockets had a really good chance of winning. And most recently, you look at Tyrese Halliburton. He was advised to sit down, played in Game 7. He's out for the entire 2025-2026 NBA season. Not saying that these guys are wrong for wanting to go out there and play, but just to show the more realistic side of it, that a 2 to 3 week injury can turn into 2 to 3 months quick, if not rehab and taken care of the right way. Because hamstrings heal slow, and that's just not something that you want to risk with the caliber of player that Darren Peterson is. And with knowing that, it's annoying that fans will still find a way to complain about certain things, acting like they're the ones who put the NIL money in his pocket. This team is 10-3. This team is overachieving, doing a lot better than anybody would have ever expected. Coming into this game, we were ranked 17, and instead of shining light on that, great performance by Trey White. Melvin Council playing out his mind the last few weeks. All they want to do is talk about Darren Peterson. So sure, covering Darren Peterson, but for that to be the only thing that they talk about and how negative they are, it's really annoying, especially because when we do see him play, they don't stop posting and raving about him. So it's like, man, pick a side, man. This dude is 18 years old with generational wealth on the line, and he's getting advised this from people who actually have his best interests. You know, stuff like that is annoying. I'm not saying these people are wrong for being frustrated. Every day they make a tweet. Like, this is the first time that they found out that Darren Peterson won't be playing in a meaningless game. Like, so that's why I'm going to try to do my best to cover this team more, to be a lot more realistic, uplifting, and positive. You know, something that you would want from a channel that covers a team. Not just people who repeat the negative stuff and just tweet negative stuff all day. But I am interested to know what you guys think about the situation. This is Fueled by Craft. Appreciate you guys for watching.